Welcome to Merkaba Chakras, where we talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension.
Welcome to another podcast episode of Merkaba Chakras. I'm your host, Vaughn Galt, and today we dive into the healing nature of connecting to 5D Gaia or Earth through the shamanic meditation and rituals with Dakota Earth Cloud Walker. Now, Dakota has been a shamanic teacher for over 25 years, and she brings a wealth of experience in how we all can connect to our planet and each other through shamanism. So with that, Dakota, welcome to Merkaba Chakras.
Thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. And I love talking about this stuff. So it's no
Me
twisting
too. I
my
love
arm.
metaphysics too.
Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and there's so many different ways to come into metaphysics and higher
Mm-hmm.
levels of consciousness and so many different experiences. You never really get bored. So, yeah, so I love it
Yeah.
too. Okay, so before we get into this wonderful discussion about the modalities that you bring forth to connect to 5D Gaia and the higher consciousness within the universe, let's begin with how did you get into this work in the first place?
Wow. Well, I would say that the work found me. And really, when I look back on my life, I feel like I have been living the shamanic life ever since I was a kid.
Mm,
Even my parents would comment about that, that it was just, that was always my natural way of being, was to be more of that shamanic nature. So for me, when I got into the work, it was really just kind of an extenuation of what I always knew and felt.
mhm,
And then I just found a way to carve it out into my life. I started in my early 20s teaching spiritual studies and things like that, and really diving into the world of Native American spirituality and Celtic Druidry, and just kind of finding my own path. But then at the same time, I'm always been the one that, if I feel very passionate about something, I want to bring it into my work. And so it became a very easy dovetail to make that
right,
transition.
right. And just for people to understand about shamanism, shamanism is just kind of a generic term because there's a lot of shamans
Hmm.
all over the world. I'm Laos, and there's shamanism in Laos as well as all over the world, Mongolia, China, South America,
Yeah.
etc. Native American. The Celtics have
Mhm.
their own practice as well. And basically, shamanism is just basically a spiritual approach to your connection to that subtle energy field of universal consciousness that's in everybody. It's a
Yes.
it's just kind of coming into that mysticism about reality, and that's really what it
Hmm.
is. It's not connected to any kind of religion, so there's no body to
Right.
adhere to, etc. So, in terms of a spiritual approach, it's very very, very much, and we have a lot of shamanism type outlook in Buddhism because Buddha, again, is a spiritual approach that is non-religious
Hmm.
to reality and to connect to that Christ consciousness within you and everyone else, which is source. So
Right.
we're talking the same language here. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of misconceptions about shamanism because I feel like it's primarily Native American, or that it's a religion. Some people feel it's very dark energy, and really it's very, very light. And it's more like a container that contains the soul of the person who is deciding to walk that path in whatever capacity that you show up in.
right. And can you address, because you picked two modalities of shamanism, Native
Hmm.
American and Celtic. Was there some kind of ancestral reason why you were attracted to those, or how
Yeah,
did you?
the Native American, ironically, I never knew that I had any Native American blood in me, because primarily my lineage is Celtic, Scottish,
Hmm.
Scottish Irish. But when I did my ancestry, I found out that I actually had some Native American in me. And I was very excited about that because I had
Mm.
no idea that that was there. My interest in Native American culture came from really, I grew up here in Ohio and I was very connected to the earth here. We have a lot of Indian mounds and
Mm-hmm.
it's very steeped in Native American tradition, actually. And I started going to the powwows and I just fell in love with the people and the energy and all of that surrounded it. When I left Christianity, I felt like I needed to find something to fill that gap because I felt like there was still something there for me. I just needed to find a different path towards that. And so Native American spirituality became what I studied the most in the beginning.
And
And
then you
that
went
became
into
my
the
path.
Celtic. And then how did you divert
Yeah,
into adding Celtic into it?
I think over the years, what really drew me is I was always very interested in Celtic mythology as well. And it wasn't until I actually went and spent a lot of time in Ireland and
Mm.
Scotland. My grandma was from Scotland, and when she passed away, I flew over there and took her ashes and buried them at the family castle. And I had this very kind of like love story with Scotland that was happening at that time. That was back in 1998,
Mm.
and just really fell in love with the land, the people. And then fast forward about 10 years, I started going to Ireland and doing public speaking and teaching and working with clients, teaching workshops. And whenever I was in Ireland or Scotland, I always felt like I was at home. I just felt
Mm.
in my bones that had landed on my home country. And so then I began to research my lineage. I knew that my mom's side of the family was from Scotland, but when I did the ancestry, I was able to trace back my dad's side of the family to 700 BC.
Mm. Wow,
And yeah,
that's
because
long.
it's a long time.
Yeah.
It took years to get there.
Wow.
But in that research, what I discovered was that my great grandfathers and grandmothers were kings and queens of Scotland and Ireland, and many of them were well-known druids. And
Mm.
that's why, like my 45th great grandfather is Bran the Blessed, and Merlin, and all of that. So I have all of that lineage in my blood, and that made sense for me to feel so connected to those lands. And so
Mm.
I began bringing in a lot of the Celtic uh, aspects to the work that I do. And now today, I would say primarily I teach mostly Celtic with the flair of Native American, because that's always in
You
my
blend
heart.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a little Native American ancestry that was natural for you to kind of integrate that, and then you have the Celtic
Yeah.
ancestry. So you have two sides of the ocean here merging
Yeah. Merging together.
into a hybrid being here. So you're kind of like a bridge between Europe and
Yes.
North America.
Yeah.
But let's address the stigma against that some people have about Native American shamanism or Celtic shamanism, because there is still that stigma that, especially with the Druids and
Hmm.
some of the practice that they have, that it's something native, something demonic. You're channeling some spirits that you shouldn't be
Yeah.
channeling. All of the above. So please answer those questions about the stigmas. And did you get that stigma when you transition away from Christianity into incorporating this into your life as well?
Yes and no. And I think that for me, when I was very young, I spent my teen years going to church and became a born again Christian and all of that. And the only reason I left the church was that I came out as a gay person. And at that time, it was, God does not accept you. And I was no longer welcomed in the flock, so to speak. And so I had to
Mm.
carve out my own path. And so I had already lived a life of being kind of chastised for who I was. And so for me, when I went into shamanism, and as a shamanic practitioner, you never call yourself a shaman, but
Mm-hmm.
never label myself that. That's something that you earn that title through the work that you do. And I think for the stigma part of it, I just have never given any 2 cents for it. Like if
Mm-hmm.
somebody doesn't feel, if they want to question my ethics or question, what I do and things like that, I just invite them to have a conversation like this and learn more about that heart nature that really is at the root of walking that shamanic path. It's about being reverent to everything around you. the
Mhm.
earth, the trees, the plants, the rocks, the water, the air element, all of it. And being able to recognize yourself in all of humanity, in all of the things around you,
Mhm.
and letting those areas inform the way that you live your life. And I think that for me, it's been really about living a life by example and
Mhm.
not by shouting out from the hilltop, this is who I am, this is what I do,
Right.
kind of thing. And I've been very fortunate to be able to attract people into my life who have been very open to that. And really, they know me. They know the work that I do, and that's one of the things that I get commented on the most in the work that I do, is that people appreciate the authenticity.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of comes through. Whereas if there were stigmas of shamanism, it got a little dispelled when they came to know me, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Great learning lessons there. And just for like, I mean, because I know some shamans who are also very, very religious in various Christian sects, and they're able to
Hmm.
bridge both of them.
Yeah.
So just for those out there who's like, well, why can't you, bridge them too? For you, the sect that you were in just didn't accept your homosexuality, and that's why you
Yeah.
broke off instead of merging it as part of your.
Yeah, you know what I felt when I left the church, and it was heartbreaking to leave the church, but for me it was it came down to the God that I believed in didn't reside in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And the church felt very confining, that you had to accept God in this box. And
Mm-hmm.
it's this big and it's this color and it's got, it's and I didn't feel, and that's the disservice I find with most organized religion, is that they don't allow people to really feel into that relationship with God that's
Mm-hmm.
personal to them,
Right.
and that expression, and it feels a little bit more dictated. So for me, it was always about really empowering myself to live how I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
viewing God how I wanted to. I took my mom to the beach one day, and I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, and I told her before we went, I said, hey, come on, Dad, Mom, Dad, I'm going to take you to church. And they were like, oh, you're going to take us to church? They were so excited. And I took them to the beach, and we're walking up and down the beach. My mom says to me at one point, she's like, I thought we were going to church. I said, we did. We're right here. Enjoy it. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the ocean. Look at the waves. Look at the birds, the sand, all of it. And after a while, she sat down on the beach, and she just sat there, and she was doing whatever she does. And I went over and sat next to her, and she goes, you know what? For the first time, I can understand why you call this church.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not in a box on a corner of a city. It's churches everywhere. It's
Right.
every day of the week.
Everything is spiritual.
Yeah, everything is
Yeah.
spiritual.
Everything is spiritual. Well, in terms of everything is spiritual, you call your team Gaia. So
Yeah,
which is the name that a lot of people use for planet Earth. Her
right.
name is Gaia.
Gaia.
So you guys really resonate with the planet's energies.
Absolutely.
And what do you say about the energy of Gaia right now? Because in
Oh,
Buddhism, she's already fifth dimensional. Whether you guys are ready to get to that level of awareness or not, she's already
yeah,
there having a
she's
great
already
time.
there.
But for some people, they're like, "Oh no, we need to get there. We're going there.
Nah,
We're
nah,
gonna
nah,
drive to come, or whatever." They come up with all these different ways of Gaia and fifth dimensional Gaia being out there, and that we have to go there, or somebody's going to take us over
right.
there. It's always somewhere outside of you
Outside.
and not inside of you. So,
Yeah.
can you clarify the confusion about where is 5D Gaia? Where is she?
You're walking on her. I think that people, you get two choices. You can look at things half full or half empty. And if you're always looking at the pieces of humanity that's still, struggling, and it's hard and all this stuff, you're always going to be stuck in that third
Mhm.
dimension. But you're right. I mean, we are really in 5D. And I think what we're witnessing right now on the planet globally is that there's a purging happening. If you're not
Explain
going to
that.
if you're not going to if people aren't ready to resonate at that fifth dimensional frequency, then by nature you'll just get kicked out of the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the system's going to be really foreign to you and really hard for you to adapt to.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of like everybody's graduated to the next level and you're still
at kindergarten.
and you're kindergarten and you're really fighting to try to make it at the next level in the kindergarten consciousness.
Right.
But all the resources are available to you and they've been available to you and they still are available to you,
And they
and so
still are
are
available
people.
to you. Yeah.
And there's who are like, oh, do you need a tutor, do you need a mentor, do you need a coach,
Yeah.
so it is there. But that's a really good way to define where is 5D Gaia, because everybody keeps
Yeah.
looking for her or waiting for her.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, because you said something that is important as well, as if you're not going to go to that fifth dimensional awareness within your consciousness, within yourself, you're going to
Mhm.
get kicked out. Can you define what kicked out is? Is it just them struggling to?
Well, I think it's what you just said, where there's that there's that internal struggle, there's an external struggle that happens. And I also think that, for some people, the purging comes with death. I mean, we've seen it in COVID, just millions of people who have passed away. Not that I think that everybody who's passed away from COVID was not ready for 5D. I don't want to say that by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that there's certain levels of graduation. And if you graduate where you've gotten everything that you've squeezed out of this life, and it's time for you to go back to source energy, then your time is there. But I think when, as we have moved into 5D, the struggles have become really real for people. And I think it shows up in a couple of different ways. For people who have already been on their spiritual path, what I'm seeing anyway in the students who come into my programs is that they're coming in with this insatiable thirst for empowerment, for connection, for feeling life from, I call it full spectrum living, from living
Right.
full spectrum. So these people are primed. They're ready. They want to engage in that part of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have another set of people that they haven't figured it out yet. They're still struggling financially or health wise or whatever it might be. Instead of looking at things from a different layer, that some of those struggles are from that push pull that happens, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, when we look at the abundance aspect of the universe is the absolute most abundant place ever. And manifesting becomes extremely easy in 5D. You think about it, you believe it from that molecular level, you're imprinting your quantum field with, the things that you want to bring into your life. And it happens just like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's this catch up.
No, I completely agree with you. And I've done book interviews. And if you guys go into my early book interviews on the playlist in the YouTube channel, you will see I have done interviews where there's a strategy in how I was talking. The earlier ones will say, oh, there's a 3D and 5D split, and you're going to have to jump over and work on yourself and work on raising your energy and all of that, because I knew that was the hook for many people.
Yeah.
And then it evolved to, okay, and then it evolved to the Buddhist understanding, is
Yeah.
everybody got brought up, whether you're ready or not. Some people are going to adapt much easier to the new
Yes.
energy. Others are going to struggle with this, a lot of resources. So it's choose your own adventure. And
It is.
and that's what I keep saying, is choose your own adventure. And you're saying the same thing. It's choose your own
Choose your
adventure
own adventure.
in these higher realities. No one's going to make you do the things that you want to do or need to do to raise your frequency, to live in the higher awareness of reality. But continuing to be kindergarten, like you say, in a higher grade is going to be a struggle until you finally kind of let go of that ego talk of, no, it has to be this way, and then just find the resources to help. Purging in Buddhism is what we call cleaning up your house.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So cleaning up your house is not, it's not go through the fire or get a bunch of water, holy water put on you or anything else. Those are just permission slips to allow you to be comfortable with working the things that you need to do to clean up your house, so that you can not carry old 3D baggage with you into the higher
Right.
awareness.
Yeah. And I think, for a lot of people, it's they've gotten so accustomed to being attached to their story. This is who I was, this is how I got here, this is why I have so much, angst in my life or anger, and they attach themselves to those traumas from early childhood
Mhm.
and even past lives. You see
Yeah.
that in the spiritual world quite a bit. And I think when you change that focus, you start creating that evolution that manifests who you are innately. Because once you detach from the story, you detach from the ego.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then all you have left is spirit and source and soul, and that knows no limitation.
Right, right. So we get into the topic of higher dimensional awareness.
Mhm.
Okay, so Earth is already in fifth dimensional awareness. She's already in 5D. So,
Yeah.
you know, everybody has their time to get there or be it or whatever. But let's
Mhm.
define the concept from your background of what fifth dimensional awareness is, and how does it
Hmm.
transcend your past, your future, all the different ways in which you exist.
For me, I think that the fifth dimension resides in this exact present moment right
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I think once upon a time, I used to live life either, with one eye in the past and one eye in the future, like this happened to me, and what if this happens to me? And I was never fully present. And when I started living more presently, it changed everything. It changes everything for anybody, I think, because there's no spectrum by which you have to judge anything or any expectation that you have. And when you're living in that present moment, you open up to that world of curiosity. And in that curiosity, you start discovering that there's a lot of magic around us at any
Mm-hmm.
given moment. Just being able to be present with that magic is magical. Right? And
Yeah.
that to me is fifth dimensional living. By anything else, it's just by being present with what is. And I also see in the spiritual realms and spiritual path anyway, you have people who want to go home. And so they're always looking
Mm-hmm.
for that, what am I going to be in my future life? Or I just want to go back to my star family, or I want to be, I want to sit in meditation every day, all day long, blah, blah, blah.
Which is could be an escapism too.
Right. And they live in these upper three chakras where they just want to be in that upper echelon of the spirit world. And they negate these other chakras that are really tethered to Mother Earth. And Mother
Mm-hmm.
Earth, this is where it's at, man. We got
Mm-hmm.
this is a beautiful, beautiful
Mm-hmm.
place. And when we have such a blip of time here, and to squander it away, wishing we were somewhere else or doing something else or feeling like we had other expectations, does such an injustice to the life that we have here now. And for me, that 5D living really does come fully when we are just living in that present moment, being curious.
Yeah, really, really, really well said. And just, another way of what you just said that comes to mind for me, because I like to relate things to the Buddhist audience, is, we all know the chakras, and they're in all
Hmm.
traditions. And
Yeah,
if you're only always high in the clouds and in the love and light, and you neglect the lower chakras, guess what? You're out of balance, because it's a cohesive network. And that
yeah,
cohesive network of tuning into your frequencies throughout your whole chakras, guess what? I've written books about this in Buddhist mandala series. It creates the toroidal field that makes your aura field, that makes your
right.
Merkaba, that makes your mandala. So if you
Yes.
cut off half your energy field because that's the lower ones you don't want to, guess what? Your energy field's out of balance.
Exactly. And you never live a heart-centered life if you're only
Uh-huh.
living in those upper echelons. I saw a depiction of it once, and I teach this actually now, is where you've got the triangle, and these are your upper three chakras, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
the inverted triangle, that's your lower three chakras.
Mm-hmm.
And for most people, they live with these two triangles separated, with the heart in the middle, but they're not touching. When
Right.
you bring them together, you actually form the Star of David,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and the heart resides in the middle. Yep,
Yep.
and it all flows out, but you also cannot travel from one chakra to the other without going through that heart center.
That's right.
And that heart center is key for living life here on earth. in that 5D dimension.
That's right. As above, so
So
below.
below. That's right.
Okay, so your Gaia team offers online and in-person courses.
hmm
So, what can people learn from taking the Soul Warrior course?
Well, most of my teaching is centered around the medicine wheel. And
Mm,
so the Soul Warrior training is a journey around the medicine wheel. The medicine wheel has 7 directions, but we work really primarily with the 4 cardinal directions.
mhm,
And so each season we're opening up enrollment to that program, and you take a journey for 1 full year, 1 full evolution around the medicine wheel, and you learn the energies of the medicine wheel. You learn to balance the excess or deficient energy that you might have. And in
mhm,
doing so, you start to live, as we're talking about right now, that 5D living. You become more empowered. My whole focus, everything I teach is about empowering people to step into who they really are,
mhm.
and stop with this whole hand holding thing. Like, let me uh, I see it too often in spiritual worlds. I heard somebody today even told me uh, she was starting to wind down her life because she had a medium tell her that she only had 300 days left to live, and this was like 250 days ago. So she's planning on dying in May or June, and it just broke my heart, because it's like you're giving your power away to
Yeah,
someone who's giving you a reading that's through their filters, and so on and so forth. And
uh,
my passion is about bringing people into that place of empowerment where they can decide for themselves what is best. So
yeah.
Soul Warrior training is that. It is all about teaching people to do that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's going to be a good course, people. But I now you just brought up something that's really, really critical for people to understand, especially when they're going through kind of like a spiritual crisis, or they're kind
Yeah.
of slowly navigating into a higher dimensional awareness, and things are happening to them that they maybe need guidance for,
hmm
or assistance to help them clear up their stuck energies that
Yeah.
reside with certain traumas in their life that they have, that has kind of brought them down, and
hmm
then they become suspect to people who maybe give 'em poor information, like that medium.
hmm
So what are some ways in which people can practice discernment so that they don't get taken for a ride, or they don't go down that fear path in their life?
Yeah. Well, first I tell people, especially when they come into the program, is that there's kind of one rule here, is that nobody can tell you what your experience is going to be. Nobody
Mm,
can interpret for you the messages that you receive. Nobody can teach you anything that you don't already know. I'm here to help you remember who you are. That's as simple as that. And the first rule of thumb is that whenever you need information, or you need to interpret a message or a dream or whatever, a journey, is you do it for yourself first. You
mm-hmm,
gather up all the information. What does this mean to me? What experience do I have with this? What does this sign represent to me? And after you've gone through all that interpreting, then you outsource and find other
right.
perspectives to see and fill in the gaps where you might have missed something, but it has to resonate deeply with you, that that feels right and
Mm-hmm,
congruent. Because the truth is that 9 people can look at a tree, and 9 people will see 9 different things.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think, as far as discernment, really looking at what is somebody's path, what has their path been, doing a little bit of research. Just because somebody calls himself a shaman, usually the first telltale sign that a shaman is not a shaman is that they call themselves a shaman.
yeah. Most shamans don't call themselves a shaman because,
Never.
like I said, it's just basically a mystic journey through life.
Yeah, yeah. And that's it's an esteemed title that belongs with other people. Label you that if they want to,
Yeah.
but yeah, doing a little bit of research. I think people are too quick to just jump on somebody's marketing bandwagon
Mm-hmm.
because they have a pretty logo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sadly, I think that's almost true.
Yeah. And for some people who have been taken for a ride, there is a lesson there.
Yeah, exactly. And
Don't learn the same hard lesson twice.
everything is there to teach you.
So they're doing a good job teaching you the same lesson
Yeah,
if you haven't learned
exactly.
the first time. Okay. Okay, so you also offer what you call a soul dive, and it's an online course.
Yes.
And One is, how do you have a direct revelation? Like, how can people place these discernments with these direct revelations that they get through soul
Mm-hmm.
diving? Because
Mm-hmm.
you can be taken for a ride with real people
Yeah.
and also the spirit world to
In the
see
spirit
how
world.
much are
Yeah.
you going to let us play with you.
Yes, that is very true. The soul dives, the online courses, they are also kind of dovetailed to the medicine wheel. So they have a different flavor for each of the directions. And for me, that direct revelation really is about uh, being a clear container, being a hollow bone, being able to hear the messages and that guidance that you're getting and have it be a little unfiltered. We like to put things through that lens of the ego, like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense, or I don't know, that doesn't fit my life. And we try to attach the story to it. So for direct revelation, learning how to have that discernment, it's about allowing whatever to come through without question, without expectation, without judgment, and looking at it, through the lens of, what does this symbolize? What does it, really feel like in the emotional body? What does the sensory system feel like?
Yeah.
Our guides in the spirit realm, they speak to us through our imagination and curiosity primarily. And so whenever you find yourself in that mindset of, I wonder if, I think, I want, I need, you're going into that mental body in the east direction.
Right.
And you're really working it through that story lens again, when really you want to be down in that south north vein, and you're feeling that energy come in. You feel it sensorily, is that even a word? It is
It's a
now.
word now.
It's a word now.
It's a word now.
But you're feeling it in your whole body and in your whole heart, and it feels different. When you get that message, from a clean place, it feels very, very different.
Yeah.
I will say, like, if you're looking for these messages and these connections from a place of extreme need, you probably will always feel that impetus to form it in the way that you want it.
Well, that begs the question, how do people know that these spirit messages are for their greatest good? I mean, what are some suggestions that you can give people, like, recognize this or whatever?
I think for me, it's the non-attachment. Non-attachment to the outcome. And if I can remain non-attached to whatever information I've given, then I have a greater ability uh, to feel whether it's something I want to embody or not. I don't know if that's answering your question or not. It's kind of, it feels a little, there's not words to describe that feeling. I don't know. It's
Yeah. For me, well, I'm sassy with my spirit guides too. So I
yeah.
say I say no, and I challenge them.
Yeah.
And for the subtle energies, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this instead. Find somebody else. So I say no
Yeah.
quite as often as I say yes. So, but there is always choice
There's always
given.
choice, and that's
It's always
part of
choice.
that's part of the human experience that we signed up for,
Yeah,
is to have
yeah,
that free will.
yeah. And for me, when it comes to having a connection to source or to just different energies within source, whatever you want to call them, for me, mine give me choice. And if I say no, they respect it.
Yes.
And they honor it.
Yes.
And so there's no like pressure, there's no force, there's no you got to do this, there's
Right.
and there's also no fear. Like, I'm not going to all of a sudden feel anxiety or panic or depression if I don't do it.
Right.
So that's the energies that I get. If
Yeah.
you do get those opposite ones, and if you're communicating and you get fear and you get anxiety, you get a panic attack, you feel like
Yeah.
you're forced to, or you have to do it, you can't say no. It doesn't matter what realm or what title they supposedly give themselves. It's the same thing. That, yeah, yeah. Move on.
Move on.
There's so many out there. You don't have to settle for the first ones that come through.
That's right. For me, it feels like it's almost like there's something inside my heart that locks in when I know the message is right for me. And maybe the timing's not right, but the message is right. And I can kind of tell that difference between that energy. But and I always say this too, spirit guides have a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
They're just always there. They've lived human lives also. And, for each of us who've come into the human experience, it's really to have that total experience of every emotion spectrum, eat ice cream and chocolate and all that good stuff. And really, feel the sand between your toes that you don't get to do as a spirit. And so as a result, I think your spirit guides, they want you to have fun in life. It's not always about serious stuff, but enjoy life, have fun, find that place of joy, be in gratitude, all of that.
That's really well said. And and you offer courses in how to learn the language of the spirit guides. So, is it all in your head? Are you going cuckoo? Or is it something outside of my head that's saying this? I mean, these are all these questions when you enter into space. So can you explain what is the language of spirit guides?
Yeah. I coined the term soul tracking as what I describe as that language between you and your spirit guides. And it's a unique language that's going to be just between you and your spirit guides. And to learn it, a lot of people ask me, well, you must journey and meditate to get all of your messages and stuff. And it's like, no, I journey to take a break from my guides, because all day long, they're always speaking to me. And they speak through that lens of creativity, imagination, curiosity, the present moment, all those things that I was just talking about, sensory system. So I have, I create a little dictionary, and these are the things, this is what this means to me. If I see a circle, this is what I think a circle means to me.
Right.
And so I started developing this language with my guides, so they know now what I kind of equate things to. So as I'm driving down the road, if I get, I start to look at things, and it's like, oh, wow, there's a hawk there. What does that represent to me? What does that mean to me right now in my life? What is that message for me? If I see it 3 times, it's like, bam, I got to pay attention. This is really hitting me in the face. That happened yesterday, actually.
Really? What happened?
Yeah, I saw 3 hawks. Actually, I see hawks a lot. But yesterday I saw 3 of them. And interestingly, I won't go into the whole story, but I got to my mom's house, and through the course of our conversation, I realized that the message of the hawk was, pay attention. You need to get a different perspective on the story that you are running in your head. And so for me, that's what that message was. And so I always look to, whenever you have these messages, it's not just the hawk, but it's, where is the hawk? What's the surrounding? What's the setting? What's the context? What are other elements that are showing up? One day I saw 7 hawks in the span of 45 minutes, and every single, I'm not exaggerating, every single one of them was on the ground. They weren't up high. And so that had a completely different meaning to me that day. It was like,
and what was the meaning of 7 hawks on the ground?
That I need to bring the perspective from 10,000 feet down to where I am right now and look at it from a macro level. I need to take action. The hawk coming down, he saw the mouse or whatever he was hunting, and he went for it. Right. And so that was the message for me, is I just need to go for it and get my feet on the ground and look at the small picture. Look at the details. And pay attention.
That's really good. What you described, I'm not sure if it's but it's the same concept. It's what I call synchronicity. As a language of the spirit guides or the angels or whatever you want to call them. Is because there's different ways to communicate. Some people communicate through clairaudience, clairsentient, and that's fine too. Others, they'll channel in the message. My daughter calls it the body snatchers. She's a 6-year-old, so she has funny terms for it. She's like, oh, your client, the body snatchers took over your client. I'm like, stop it. but Anyways, and then there is the subtle language of synchronicity. When you're thinking
Yeah,
something, a billboard comes through and answers that question, and then
exactly.
you're in line, and the next answer to the next question comes up in somebody's conversation, and
Right.
but being aware enough to perceive those subtle clues,
Yeah.
um,
And the other
that is
thing,
a training.
it is a training, and the other part of that training happens when you realize that there are times when a hawk is just a hawk.
Mm. And
It's
when are
not,
those times? When are those times?
I don't know, that's where you have to learn that discernment, because I think that's
Mm.
a personal thing. And because there's like, I live in Ohio right now, and there's tons of squirrels, and once upon a time I would equate a squirrel with my dad, but I've got like 7 squirrels out in my yard at any given time. So I know dad's not there every single day, every moment of the day, 7 times. So then it's like, okay, it looks, for me, it's finding those moments where it's so totally by surprise.
Right.
You're not calling it in. You're not trying to like, okay, what's here now? What's here now?
Trying to make it happen.
Trying to make it happen.
Right. Trying to make it
But
happen.
it's spontaneous, like you say, synchronistic, and allowing that freedom of flow to happen in your life. And that happens only, I think, when you are living in that present moment. We keep circling back to that present moment. It's the most
Yeah.
important moment of your life.
Because it's the most important moment you're living right now.
Exactly.
You're not
Yeah.
living in the past right now, or in the future right
Yeah.
now, or in the parallel reality right now. You're living right now here.
You're right here.
So
Yeah.
be
Right.
present, and this is what you're creating right now.
Yeah.
So experience it and enjoy it. Yeah, I completely agree. I live a couple minutes away from a lighthouse here
Mm.
in a small town, kind of whimsical small town over by the San Juan Islands,
Oh,
away
I
from
love San Juan
yeah,
Island.
away from downtown
Yeah.
Seattle, way far away. But because we have all these islands, we have all these trees. Instead of hawks, I get eagles.
Eagles. Yeah.
I get eagles, and then I also get orcas because they come through
Oh,
and they
beautiful.
and then go back out.
Yeah.
So you get used to hearing orcas sleeping on the beach on the water, and now you're like, what's that sound?
Oh,
That's them sleeping. So very peaceful, but we get that, and so sometimes it's just orcas coming through,
exactly.
and sometimes it's just eagles looking for food. Um,
Yes.
I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, actually with my son, I tried to do a maternity swimming suit picture for the baby invitation,
Yeah.
and I was on the beach on Whidbey Island, and there was this eagle that kept on like taking over my photo shoot and kept on like just coming in the background on the side. I mean, I was just like, I guess this eagle is going to take the spotlight from me.
Oh,
So
that's so funny.
but that's very, very normal. So get good with distinguishing what is normal
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what is the spirit guides trying to communicate something for you.
Yeah.
Um, okay, now you have 2 books out, and
Mhm.
both books have the same 21-day challenge.
Wait, the
So
same one?
yeah, the same 21-day challenge in both books. It's on the website. It's on the website too for both books.
I have
So
Soul Recharge and Gratitude Challenge, I think, out, right?
Um, I think so, but I saw that they had a 21-day challenge in them.
Yeah.
So what what can people look forward in these 21-day challenges?
I think 21 days is a manageable bite. Most people can do something for 21 days. And it just kind of catapults them to living or being more mindful of different things. So there's the gratitude challenge that helps cultivate that gratitude. Gratitude
Mhm.
is the second highest frequency that we can embody
Mhm.
next to Christ consciousness.
Mhm.
And so the 21 days towards gratitude, living in a grateful heart, is really about kind of bringing yourself. It's everything we're talking about right now, being more present, to be grateful for what you have right now. Right now, I'm really grateful for technology. I'm really grateful to have this connection to you. And it's finding those little things that we just let slip by. I don't like I am not a firm believer in gratitude journals, because I think it sets people up to wait until the end of the day to
Mhm.
reflect back on,
Mhm.
instead of being grateful in the moment and recognizing when that moment becomes magical and spiritual and esoteric. And when
Yeah.
you start living in gratitude, then you begin cultivating those moments more readily for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
that 21-day challenge. And I think that's like, I just think that's one of the most important things that we can do in life is to move towards that. And then the soul recharge is really about finding those ways to recharge ourselves despite the busy schedule, despite the
Mm-hmm.
kids and the school and the work and all of that. Finding those little moments where we can take in a deep breath.
Yeah.
Be.
Yeah.
So,
And those go hand in hand, being grateful and then also being able to kind of tune into yourself and,
yeah.
recharge.
And
Um,
yeah, and not hitting
I
that wall.
Yeah, I'm not hitting that wall. And actually, like, they have done meditation studies in gratitude. It actually, the frequency of gratitude is gamma brainwaves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the highest frequency that we know of in the brain.
Yeah.
Advanced meditators are people who have very, very high energy, typically radiate at gamma. And that gamma brainwave frequency, they've already proven this in meditation research, does change physical reality. When they do these
Yes.
studies, everybody around it is less violent, more peaceful, much
It's
happier.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
it's just that frequency of gamma, of being grateful, connecting to source, and just being present in the moment.
Yeah.
Source is really, really simple. It's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard. And
And
I've had people try the 21-day challenge who are really grumpy about life.
mm-hmm.
Okay. And they have the hardest time because because and many people coming into this will have to learn to almost rewire their consciousness to be a fifth
Yes.
dimensional level, which is of gratitude, of seeing the
Mm-hmm.
optimism, et cetera, et cetera. But they have to undo their negative
Yes.
back talk. And they
Right.
may have had a chronic way from childhood, from their culture, from society, from wherever they get these unconscious behaviors of constantly being negative about things, pessimistic about things, constant complainers. Everybody knows
Mm-hmm.
those people who just cannot say a nice thing and they complain about everything. Um,
Yes.
Everything is a complaint. And so, but they're usually really sick and tired all the time too.
Exactly.
So how does the 21-day challenge of being grateful and tuning into yourself, how does that help your overall health?
Exponentially. It detaches you from that storyline, like what you're talking about. And if you create different brain waves, then you create a different reality for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you there's absolutely positively zero chance or way that anybody could be grateful and fearful at the same time. You can't be grateful and angry. You can't be grateful and fearful. You can't be grateful and
Mm-hmm.
depressed and despondent. You just cannot physically embody gratitude with any of those emotions simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's like, how do you get somebody to see that piece of it and move themselves? Because once you start feeling that gratitude and seeing how life changes around you and how people respond differently to you,
Right.
then it becomes almost like an addiction. It's like, I want more of that, which is a healthy
Yeah.
addiction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that detachment from the story, it first you've got the story like this where you're married to the story, and then
Yep.
you do something that kind of breaks away those threads until you can finally detach from it, and then you become an autonomous person, spirit, and then
Mm-hmm.
you start falling back into your power and remembering who you are. You are not the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You
Really.
and I think also from the shamanic point of view, just to add this in there too, it doesn't diminish the story that we have because we chose all of these circumstances coming into this lifetime because we opted to learn whatever it is that we needed to learn. And to do
Mm-hmm.
that, we needed grit. You need that
Right.
grit in life to be able to propel yourself forward. The problem is the ego wants to hold on to that grit because
Mm-hmm.
that's how we define ourselves
Right.
instead of defining yourself as the person who got through that.
That is so true.
Uh,
I've had clients who have not necessarily mental health, but they have certain traumas and they do not want to let go of that trauma because they have defined themselves so
they
much
define
in their
themselves.
family structure, in their family and friends as the victim
Right.
of that circumstance, and they can't get beyond that, and so they want to, but then at the same time they hold themselves back.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're going to have moments in life where there is merit to complain about something. There is merit to be on the dumps, but how
Yeah.
long you stay there and how much you
Yes.
dig in those trenches
Yeah.
defines where you go next.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
really good exercise to help people pull themselves out of that
Yes.
negative pitfall or free fall. Okay, so with that, you actually have a lot of free meditations on your
Hmm.
website to address these things that everybody is working on in their life. Um, and and just so you preference, you're not going to be Zen all the time. There's going to be times where
Oh,
you're
no.
feeling like, ugh, and then there's gonna be
Yeah.
times where, so everybody, it's a scale. It's a scale. There's gonna be times in which you're gonna connect to Christ consciousness or source,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. There's gonna be times in which you're completely disconnected and you want to connect, but you can't connect for some reason, and you're just
Exactly.
kind of like, why is it so hard for me to get back into my happy place? Maybe there's a lesson that you're supposed to learn in that place. I don't know, but with these meditations, can you explain the different archetypes that you put in with these different meditations?
Hmm. Yeah. So going back to the medicine wheel again, I did a journey. I've been teaching the medicine wheel for about 20 years now, 18. And I did a journey to try to really understand the structure of the medicine wheel and how it applies to life in modern day living. And what I was shown were these 5 very distinct soul archetypes.
And what are
And
they?
visionary is in the east direction, sacred heart warriors in the south, alchemists in the west, and up in the north is the soul shaman, and then the wisdom keeper sits in the middle of the medicine wheel.
Mm.
And so my guides, and I went to the Akashic records and I did this whole big journey, and when I came out of it, I had all of this information, and I laid out in my living room 2 8 long-foot tables, cleared, I moved furniture, everything, and I just started writing everything down as I remembered it, and plotted them all out and everything, and had like the whole kind of personality profile of each of the soul archetypes.
You're trying to get it all done before it
I
slips
was.
away.
Yeah, I was. And I spent, actually, honest to God, I spent like 2 days in my living room, not even leaving the house until I got all of this kind of plotted out. And it was really, really beautiful. And I've always been, well, for years I've been a meditation coach.
Mm.
And right now I've got 145 meditations on
What's the
my.
most popular one? I mean, that's a lot.
It
Is
is a
there?
lot. I have a lot of popular ones. Twin Flame, Rise of Phoenix. Rise of Phoenix is probably the most popular. It's the most popular on Insight Timer for sure.
Okay.
It's extremely transforming. One of the biggest takeaways that I had though with the meditations, so archetypes, is that when you think of meditation, a lot of people think of Buddhist meditation, going
Uh-huh.
inward,
Yeah.
detaching the thoughts, and all of these, being mindful.
I like walking meditation.
Yeah, so an alchemist would love a walking meditation. If you put a sacred heart warrior in a mindfulness meditation of just sitting there and trying to empty your thought, they're just going to crawl up the wall. They just hate
I
it.
fall asleep. I fall asleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done yoga meditations. I've done various meditations at different monasteries I grew up with, and I'm the kid
Mhm.
that falls asleep, and they usually wake up.
Yeah.
um, I need the walking meditation, or just kind
Yeah.
of being meditative in art or in
Right.
your writing as meditation. So I need actual action meditations,
Yeah.
and so that works for me.
You're
But
probably a sacred heart warrior.
oh yeah.
Yeah, if you take the soul archetype test, you're probably a sacred heart warrior.
And what is a Sacred Heart Warrior? Yeah, can you
Uh,
explain a little bit about the each different type so that people know?
so visionary in the East is in the mental body, and they like structure. They like to,
Mm,
and the throat chakra, communication is very important. Prayer, mantras, those are kind of meditative practices for a visionary.
mm-hmm.
But the visionary in that mental body is really focused on creating goals and aspirations and dreams and inspiration. It's self-esteem, it's confidence, it's all those things that we kind of equate to that, really developing that strong kind of personality that's really
Right.
successful. And then you come down into the south direction, Sacred Heart Warrior, it's a water element. So they're a little more flowing, and they're emotional, they're intuitive, it's full of vibrancy and creativity and intuition. It's very colorful. It's relationship is very important to them, and so they begin to nurture. In the east, we plant seeds. In the south, we nurture those seeds.
Right.
And we start to grow those dreams within us, and we do that through the creativity in our life. But Sacred Heart Warriors, they really like to do visualizations, art therapy, movement kind. Trance dance is a really big one for them. Shamanic breath work, anything that's really kind of engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And then the alchemist is the physical body, and that's the world we live in. So it's how do you create sacred space? How do you treat the Mother Earth? What is your relationship to your body, the food that you ingest?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the place where we start to reflect back on our lives and what have I done? What have I created for my life?
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever's not serving us, we have an opportunity at that point to transform and rebirth. And we work with gratitude. It's all about abundance.
Mm-hmm.
What have we collected? And then in the north, the soul shaman, that's the spiritual body. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
what is your connection to spirit source, your higher self, your lower self, and really going inward to find out what is it that I actually do believe, and why do I believe that?
Mm-hmm.
And who am I at that core level? Why am I here? What is my soul theme? What did I come here to do?
Right.
And we start to unearth all of that. And then we go back into the east again and we start that dovetail all over again. But in the center, the wisdom keeper is the person who, if you're an imbalanced wisdom keeper, you are all over the place. You're just scattered. You're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I like this. I like that. Oh my gosh. Blah, blah, blah. When you're balanced, you sit in a very conscious place. You're very present, and it's the ether element.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pull from any of the directions that you need at any time. You can see that big perspective. You can see the macro perspective. And so the everything I teach is to help people get into that center of the medicine wheel, to be that wisdom
Mm-hmm.
keeper and navigate your life from that lens.
Well said. And let me ask you about these archetypes. Do people switch archetypes throughout their life?
They can, especially if they were attached to a story and
Mm.
they live a life to hide who they really are. I see it a lot. A lot of people will come in as a visionary,
Mm.
and they've dived into work. They're very entrepreneurs, teachers, etc. And then as they start to really do this soul work, this deep work, and step back into their power, what they realize is that they were a sacred heart warrior or soul shaman all along.
Mm.
But that didn't fit into the world that they were residing in because of the story they had attached themselves to or
Right,
hid
right,
behind.
right. That's very true. I come across a lot of professionals in the medical field, in IT. I work in IT in my day job,
Hmm.
in real estate, in all these professional jobs, and they do this mysticism and secret.
Exactly. Yes.
Like somehow they're going to be outed, and then they're going to lose their livelihood. Like somehow if they're outed, people are not going to want to hang out with them or promote them or
Hmm.
anything else. But I'm thinking, well, people wear their religions and their race and their sex right out in the open, but yet you're
Yeah.
going to hide a really cool aspect of yourself, which is the mysticism,
Yeah.
and your outlook to life. So how can people, is this something that you address in your YouTube live meditations, is to get comfortable with this space and own it?
Not so much in the YouTube video, well, some in the YouTube videos, but that actually is a part of really the overall soul warrior training,
Mm.
is living into your skin.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is also recognizing that, for many of us, we've had past lives where we've been persecuted for who we are, what we believe. It still goes on today. And
Yeah, we just do it more sophisticatedly through social
right.
media shaming or
Exactly. Yeah,
um
or denying somebody a wedding cake because of their sexuality or whatever.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's very embedded into our culture to label people and then put them into boxes and decide what boxes are more worthy than the others. We have this hierarchy that happens. And that's been true for all of ages, I think. And I think part of us stepping into our power is recognizing that, first of all, healing those core wounds, and then being able to, when you step into that power, there comes like this moment of truth where you realize, you know what, I get one shot at this life, because none of us
Mhm.
really know for sure if previous lives happen or not, or future lives.
Well, even if you had like a previous life, you only got one shot in that previous life too. So,
Exactly. So you only have one shot at this life. And if you're going to spend it in fear of what other people think, you really end up living somebody else's life. You live not into your skin. And so for,
right.
what I like to inspire people is that you are your best advocate. You know yourself better than anybody else, and you're the only person who's guaranteed to be with you for the rest of your life.
Yep.
So you better be really good with you, because if you're not, it's going to be a miserable life. And that's the first thing that we focus on, is how do we bring that power back to me? People give out their power just like left and right. Their energy just is flung everywhere, and
Yeah.
there's no containment of it.
Mhm.
And I think when people can take a step back and start seeing where they are spending their energy, and pull back and realize the value of who they are, then you start spending it in different places, and you get more value for your expenditure. And in that, you start feeding yourself with this arena where you can be who you are
Right.
unapologetically.
Yeah, right. And you mentioned a good thing about feeding your soul. So in in Buddhism, we understand the concept that we are all energy. We are all our Merkabas, our
Yeah.
mandalas, our energy field. And the avatar that is talking through Vaughn is an avatar for this intended experience.
Right.
This and this the storyline that I'm playing in this experience that I chose to
Mm-hmm.
play. So we understand that that we are energy, and when you take away the solid structure of things and you understand that, then everything that you engage with, that you expose yourself to, is what you feed your energy. And one of the
Yes.
things that constantly come up in Buddhism and other Eastern traditions is how people feed their soul junk food. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to explain this a little bit further because I want to get your shaman, Celtic, Native American perspective on this. So, and I get this in my hypnosis clients as well, and in my sixth sense clients as well, where they're like trying to get to the next level in their development
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is that they're working on. And we go through, and the source will go through and basically tell them, you are energy, and everything you feed yourself is junk food. You're constantly feeding yourself the negative um, images on TV. You constantly watch the negative dramas. You constantly
Mm-hmm.
watch the feuding housewives. You constantly watch one rabbit
Yeah.
hole conspiracy to another about how man is going to X themselves. You're constantly playing video games that where everybody's after you and you're chasing away from zombies. I mean, on and on the
Yeah.
list goes on. And Source continues to say over and over again, um, people need to realize that they are energy and they're just feeding themselves junk food, and their
Junk
soul is
food.
getting fat from all this junk food.
Yeah.
So instead of, and junk food's fun, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I like a little good junk food every once in a while, but most of the time, it's just like when we feed ourselves certain foods, if we're trying to live a more healthy life and a more healthy, balanced approach to our bodies and our health, we focus on limiting the junk food
Right.
and, put in healthy things into body. Well, on the same level in Buddhism, you have to focus on what kind of energy you put into your body to experience, into
Mm-hmm.
your soul to experience. And all these elements that you choose are basically junk food for the soul. So
Right.
how can people address a healthy amount of junk food if they want to feed their soul junk food for entertainment? How can they balance that? And then also, what kinds of things is healthy things to feed their soul?
Yeah. So in what I teach, there's a couple ways to look at this, actually. And one is, I live by the 80-20 rule,
Mm,
because the truth is we have to have fun. We have to enjoy life. And, not just eat lettuce every single day because we want to lose 10 pounds, but to have a healthy salad and drink lots of water. And then, every now and then have a glass of wine or a bowl of ice cream.
Balance.
I love ice cream.
I love ice cream. Soft serve is wonderful on the beach when you're looking at whales and eagles.
Exactly. So first of all, it's living the 80-20 rule. And that goes for everything. Like, after we get off here tonight, I probably am going to go out and watch Sabrina because I've been watching it with my family and it's fun. It's whatever. It's entertainment. But if I do that every night, then I start imprinting my quantum field. We talk a lot in the East direction actually about quantum field imprinting and what does that look like. And the shamans have always, the whole thing about shamans, you dream your world into being. And so whatever you're focused on, I love this analogy. I used to be an avid mountain biker. You never, ever, ever, when you're mountain biking, you don't ever look at the rock you don't want to hit. Because that's what that's exactly where your tire is going to go.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in life. It's like, if you don't want to recreate that trauma in your life, then stop looking at it. Stop identifying by it. And, stop feeding that soul. Like you said, the junk food. I like that tagline is, if you want to be healthier, then, get out and move. Stop sitting so much on your couch. If you want to hear your spirit guides, then turn off the TV, put down the news, stop filling up the field with that drama.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, humans are addicted to drama.
Oh, we love it. It's the human
Yeah.
trauma.
It
We love
is.
it.
It's like those back in the 80s when we used to watch soap operas. I don't know if they still have those or not,
Well,
but
I know. Yeah, so they do still have soap operas, but now because we aren't just tied to the national networks on TV, and we have Netflix and Hulu and a
yeah,
lot more things
exactly.
now. People have even more to choose from in entertainment. They don't have to resort to what's on the regular
Yeah, the
TV.
regular
So
TV.
yeah, so yeah, but that's very good. So people, junk food, cut out the junk
Cut out the
food,
junk
especially if
food.
you have high
Yeah.
blood pressure and anxiety and panic attacks.
Yeah.
We're talking to
Yeah.
you.
Exactly.
Cut out the junk food. You don't need that.
And
Uh,
I want to say something too for those who are listening that may feel like they are, and I find this with some people who are coming into the Soul Warrior training, is addiction is real,
mm-hmm.
and it's not
Mm-hmm.
just drugs and alcohol. There's addiction to news. There's addiction to TV. There's addiction to sex. There's addiction to spiritual practices. Addiction is real. And if I were a betting woman, I would say that probably 95% of society is addicted to something.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so whenever you are dealing with an addiction, you're not going to just change it overnight
Mm-hmm.
most of the time.
Yeah.
And so be easy on yourself and start somewhere. Start with 21 days. Start with just today. Start with just this moment, making the right choice for yourself. In 5 moments from now, you might make a different choice, and that's okay. Be forgiving of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, commit to a life that is congruent with the soul that's residing inside of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I always say, if you remove your soul out of your body, okay,
Yeah,
and now you're feeding it this soul outside of your body. Now you're feeding it food based off of the contents you expose it to. I mean, obviously there can be things that are out of your control, but you can control what kind of entertainment you constantly feed yourself.
oh,
All right.
absolutely.
What are you feeding your soul? Is it because I have clients like this who are on a lot of high blood pressure medication, anxiety, Xanax. I mean, you name it. This
Yeah,
most of the medicine cabinet is just basically the high blood pressure that they get from how they see reality. And then what are they doing? They're spending most of the time accosted by the negative news and being
right.
paranoid that we're going to kill, the whole world is going to implode
Yeah,
in one creative way to another.
yeah.
And then you look at the medicine cabinet, and then
Yes.
it's
And the
it
refrigerator.
and the refrigerator. It's very, very common. So you're feeding yourself junk food all the time, and then you're also going in and you're choosing media that's feeding yourself more junk food, and then you wonder why you're stressed and pissed off about life. How am I going to
Exactly.
be 5D in this world?
I know junk creates junk. Period.
Yeah. You're gonna
And you
raise.
create your reality. You dream your world into being. And if you are, uh, it's like the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, when they were looking
Mm-hmm.
out at the beach and they couldn't see the ships because they'd never seen them before.
Yeah.
And then they finally came into view. It's kind of like that too. It's like you have to be able to be open to the possibility that you might not be able to envision the pureness of your soul,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more you remove all this
Mm.
gunk that you've been feeding it all this time and learn new ways to feed your soul healthier experiences and build
Yes,
from it, it
the more
becomes
clear you are.
easier. Yeah, it becomes second
Exactly.
nature.
Yeah,
Don't have to try so hard to be 5D.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's speaking of 5D. So there are people who who think that Earth is not conscious.
Oh
They
my
don't think she's
goodness.
alive. They don't think she's alive, and they have no regrets for treating her the way they treat her, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we know that Princeton University and Heart Math Institute has
Mm-hmm.
proven many indigenous cultures' beliefs, and Buddhism believes Earth is
Absolutely.
alive, that she is alive through her Schumann resonance, which is her
Yep.
heart song. So, for those of us who acknowledge Earth's heart song, how can we be good caretakers of the Earth when there's other people who don't think she's alive at all and don't even care?
Oh my gosh, it just breaks my heart. It really does. That this day and age, that there would even be anybody remotely who would think that the Earth is
Oh,
not a living, breathing organism.
oh, oh
I
well,
just
if she's living and breathing, they want to, you know,
rape her.
yeah, they want to take whatever they can for their resources so they can
Yeah,
get their profits while they're living and not care about what happens afterwards. But Buddhists will tell you, you might come back to
you
what
might
you left.
exactly karma.
Yeah. So what do you say? How can we be good fifth dimensional caretakers of Mother Gaia?
First, tying it back to kind of the beginning of our conversation is living in those lower three chakras just as much as you live in the upper three, and bringing that heart into it, and being present with getting outside. Not enough people get
Mm-hmm.
outside and actually touch the earth barefoot, or put their body into the sunshine, or touch a tree, or just I work I not work I have hiked with a lot of people, and I always find this: people hate hiking with me because I hike
Mm-hmm.
slow. I am like a turtle because I'm looking at everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that centipede right there. And I'll watch it for 5 minutes before I go on.
Yep.
Like a mile hike takes me all day.
Yeah, me
And
too.
yeah, but most people, they just want to like, oh, we're going to get in 10,000 steps in the first 20 minutes. Let's go. Boom, 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 boom. And they're yakking the whole time, talking about their drama in their life. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like, just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up and get outside, sit down and look at everything around you and just be amazed. If you're not amazed, you're not paying attention. Point.
Mm-hmm.
That's simple. And
Yeah.
I have this new addiction. I will confess this addiction. I began exploring Google Earth because I'm an avid traveler.
Oh yeah, Google Earth. Yeah.
And since COVID's
Mm-hmm.
happened, I haven't been able to travel. So I decided, I download. This is what I do. This is my addiction at nighttime. I lay in bed. And I'm all over the world. I have Google Earth up on one monitor while I'm working all day long. And if I get bored, I just go over and start cruising around.
Uh-huh.
But when you do that, you start seeing Earth from a different perspective, and you start seeing the heart with the veins and the
Mm-hmm.
rivers, and it, mimics the human anatomy quite
Mm-hmm.
intricately.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. And if you can't see the beauty and the beingness in that, then I don't know. There's
Let me ask you this about that.
mm,
Are human beings a cell living on Earth? Are we part of her?
I think we're
Are we,
part of her.
yeah. Yeah.
And really when
Kind of
you
like the atoms on your face, they're part of
right.
you.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like we're like the dead skin flaking off maybe. But you know
Y-
what? You really get that perspective actually from Google Earth,
yeah.
because when you scan up from afar, you can't see civilization and
Mhm.
humans.
Mhm.
We're really just intrusions. We're parasites on Earth sometimes. And
Yeah.
I think if we can befriend that and really um, love Mother Earth for who she is and see her for who she is, and create that intimate relationship with her by walking mindfully and being present and being reverent and grateful. She supplies us with everything we possibly need.
Yeah.
She is the greatest mother that there is.
And so patient. Yeah, you guys, don't be a cancer cell to the planet. Because you know what happens to you know what happens to cancer cells on people's body? They kill the host.
That's right.
Don't be a cancer cell. What is your last message for people who want to build a fifth dimensional society?
Stop looking outside of yourself and really go inward into that heart space and reconnect to that higher divinity that's within you that already knows all of this. And stop making excuses. Stop playing small. And I think when you you see that your life has not been against you, but it's actually been for you, and recognizing those moments that have transformed you into the person that you are today, which is beautiful and whole, and get outside and connect to something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, beautiful message. Well, Dakota, thank you for another fun conversation and introducing these modalities so that people can learn more about how to get clear on their purpose, connect to the consciousness of Mother Gaia, and to connect to the consciousness of the universe and the spirit beings from within themselves. So for more information about Dakota Walker's offerings, go ahead and visit her website, DakotaEarthCloud.com. And thank you kindly to our listeners for listening to another enlightening conversations. Until next time, blessings.
Blessings. Thank you guys. Aho.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Merkaba Chakras, where we talk Buddhism in the fifth dimension. For more information about today's guest, please go to the show description. For more information about Vaughn's metaphysical work, please go to merkabachakras.com. The views expressed today are for entertainment purposes and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or replace any medical or legal advice. Don't forget to subscribe for more interviews about the fifth dimension. Until we meet again, blessings.